We'll give it a minute. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for the date of March 17th, 2022. At this time, I would like to call the meeting to order. The commissioners who are present for this evening's meeting are at City Hall and on Zoom. We also have staff from City Attorney and Clerk's offices, as well as the City Planning Department. If you're joining us on Zoom this evening, we can see that you are here. You may observe the meeting, however, your ability to be seen on screen and talk will be muted. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, you will be unmuted and then be able to comment. Please note that we cannot take questions until the public testimony portion. If you have a process question during the meeting, please email cityclerk@meridiancity.org and they will reply as quickly as possible. If you simply want to watch the meeting, we encourage you to watch this streaming on the city's YouTube channel. You can access that at meridiancity.org/live. With that, let's begin with roll call. Madam Clerk? Oh, I got ahead of her.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Wheeler,
Present.
Commissioner Stoddard,
Present.
Commissioner Grace,
Present.
Commissioner Lorcher,
Here.
Commissioner Yearsley. Apologies. Commissioner Seal.
Here.
Absent are Commissioners Yearsley and Grove.
Okay, and Commissioner Yearsley may show up. Okay, we'll bring him in when that happens. Okay, so the first item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. Let me see, H 2021-0102 and H 2022-0004, which is I'll get the names here in case anybody wants them. That is going to be the Alomar subdivision as well as the pavilion at Windsong. They will be open for continuance only. So if anybody's here to testify on those, we'll not be taking public testimony for those this evening. Alomar and Windsong. So as a result, we'll also be bringing Windsong up to the number 2 in the agenda. With that, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
pardon me. For the record, I just wanted to note Commissioner Yearsley has joined us.
Okay. There he is. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have 4 items on the agenda. We need to approve the meeting minutes from the February 3rd Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, finding facts, conclusion of law for Eagle Road Daycare Facility, finding facts, conclusion of law for Meridian U-Haul Moving and Storage, H 2021-0085, finding of facts, conclusions of law for Verona Live Work, H 2021-0080. Actually, I got approve the minutes of the last meeting, which was February 17th. No, was March 3rd. Sorry, my cut and paste didn't work. Okay, can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, now we'll, at this time, I'd like to briefly explain the public hearing process. We'll open each item individually and begin with the staff report. Staff will report their findings on how the item adheres to the comprehensive plan and unified development code. After staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward to present their case and respond to staff comments. They will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant is finished, we will open the floor to public testimony. Each person will be called on only once during the public testimony. The clerk will call the names individually of those who have signed up on the website in advance to testify. You will then be unmuted in Zoom, or you can come to the microphones in chamber. Please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the commission. If you have previously sent pictures or a presentation for the meeting, it will be displayed on the screen, and our clerk will run the presentation, or you can run it right up here. If you have If it will be, okay. If you have established that you are speaking on behalf of a larger group like an HOA, where others from that group will allow you to speak on their behalf, you will have up to 10 minutes. After all of those who have signed up in advance have spoken, we will invite any others who may wish to testify. If you wish to speak on the topic, you may come forward in chambers, or if you are on Zoom, please press the raise hand button in the Zoom app. Or if you are only listening on a phone, please press *9 and wait for your name to be called. If you are listening on multiple devices, such as a computer and a phone, please be sure to mute the extra devices so we do not experience feedback and we can hear you clearly. When you are finished, if the commission does not have questions for you, you will return to your seat in chambers or be muted on Zoom, and you will no longer have the ability to speak. And please remember, we will not call on you a second time. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to come back to respond. When the applicant is finished responding to the questions and concerns, we will close the public hearing, and commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully be able to make final decisions or recommendations to City Council as needed. So at this time, I would like to open public hearing for item number H 2022-0004, Alomar subdivision for continuance.
So moved.
We just had.
Just need to go with it, or did I
we're-
just?
We're just going with it.
Okay,
I'm opening it
you're opening it.
for
Okay. Sorry
continuance.
about that.
And Madam Clerk, I believe we're going for the date of the 21st of April for this one.
Mr. Chair, just for your information, at this time, there are 3 hearings on the 21st.
Okay. Sounds like a good fit. So I'll take a motion at this time. Nick's not here, so you guys get to jump in. Commissioner Yearsley, go ahead.
I make a motion that we continue file number H 2022-004 to the hearing date of April 21st, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chair, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Yearsley, did you intend to say 2022?
Yes.
Thank you.
I say 21, my apologies.
That's okay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to continue file number H 2022-004 for Alomar subdivision to the date of April 21st, 2022. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Now I'd like to open file number H 2021-0102 Pavilion at Windsong for continuance. And I believe they'd like the next available date, which is April 7th. I don't know how many things are on that one.
Mr. Chair, there are currently 4 hearings scheduled for April 7th.
Okay, so this would be the 5th one.
Correct.
So, and nothing else can notice in that time, so that's probably it. Okay,
That's correct.
so can I get a motion on continuance for H 2021-0102 to the date of 4/7/2022?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Archer.
motion that Pavilion at Windsong, item number H 2021-0102 for a continuance on April 7th, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to continue file number H 2021-0102 Pavilion at Windsong to the date of April 7th, 2022. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now we've all heard me talk long enough. I would like to I'd like to continue the public hearing for item number H 2021-0081 Vanguard Village. And we'll begin with the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. The application before you tonight is a request for a rezone, a preliminary plat, and a conditional use permit. A development agreement modification is also proposed, but it does not require action from the commission tonight, only city council. This site consists of 115.26 acres of land. It's zoned CC, HE, ME, and R40, and is generally located a 1/4 mile south of West Franklin Road and South 10 Mile Road. This property was annexed back in 2010 with a development agreement that included a conceptual development plan for the overall property that consisted of a mix of high-density residential, commercial, mixed employment, and high-density employment uses. The comprehensive plan future land use designation is shown there on the left map is mixed-use commercial, medium high-density residential, mixed employment, and high-density employment. A modification is requested to the existing development agreement to replace it with a new agreement for the proposed development. The original agreement included a conceptual development plan, as shown, that depicts a mix of uses consisting of flex office, condos, and townhomes, ground level retail with residential and offices above, research and development, restaurants, offices, parking structures, an amphitheater, and park areas with lakes. The proposed concept plan also depicts a mix of uses, including a multifamily development with garden-style apartments and townhome-style units on the north portion of the development at a gross density of 13.63 units per acre. Flex uses of approximately 410,000 square feet, which may include office, light industrial, and other uses such as distribution and light manufacturing. And that is on the southwest portion of the development there. Vertically integrated residential, commercial retail uses, and that is on this area right here. And non-residential uses such as corporate campus, business and professional office space, research and development, and limited retail and service uses of approximately 380,000 square feet. And that is this area along the southern boundary of the property. Conceptual elevations were submitted for these uses, and this is the 4-story vertically integrated residential and retail office that I mentioned. And then this is the mixed employment at the southwest corner, the CC product along the northern portion of the west half of the development, mixed use commercial, and high-density employment along the southern boundary on the east end. The applicant is proposing a rezone of 7.06 acres of land from the CC to the HE zoning district, 17.38 acres from the CC and HE zoning districts to the ME district, and 40.33 acres from the R40, CC, and ME zoning districts to the R15 zoning district, and 1.1 acres from the HE to the CC zoning district. All of these zoning districts currently exist on this site except for the R15 district, which is proposed to replace the R40 district on the northern portion of the property right here, which staff does believe will provide a better transition to the existing single-family dwellings to the north. This rezone proposes to reconfigure the boundaries of these zoning districts into more developable areas consistent with the proposed road layout and concept plan. A preliminary plat is proposed as shown, consisting of 8 building lots and 6 common lots on 115.26 acres of land in the R15, CC, HE, and ME zoning districts for Vanguard Village subdivision. This subdivision is proposed to develop in 5 phases per the revised phasing plan shown on the right. The first phase of the multifamily development on the north end of the site, zoned R15, is proposed to develop first, with the ME zone portion second, the second phase of the multifamily development third, the HE zone portion fourth, and the CC zone portion last. Access is proposed to be provided from the northern boundary of the site from West Franklin Road via South Sunset Point Way and South Bria Way, and from the east from South 10 Mile Road via the extension of Vanguard Way. Coral Reef Way, Sunset Point Way, Umbria Hills, and Vanguard Way are all designed as collector streets in accord with the master street map and the transportation system map in the 10-mile plan. Stub streets are proposed to adjacent properties for future extension. Due to the unacceptable level of service projected at the Bria Way and Franklin Road intersection and the cut-through traffic projected on Bria Way and Sunset Point Way north of the site, ACHD is restricting development to the first phase with 136 multifamily units, or a combination of commercial and residential development that generates approximately 75 PM peak hour trips. until alternative access is available to Umbria Hills Way, Franklin Road, or Black Cat Road. Or wait to extend Sunset Point Way into the site and Coral Reef Way to connect Bria Way until there is an alternative access available to Umbria Hills Way, Franklin Road, or Black Cat Road. The development is restricted to the first phase that generates 3,000 trips in this scenario, or approximately 366 multifamily units, and the ME zone, which until alternative access is available to the site. 10-foot wide multi-use pathways are proposed on the site in accord with the pathways master plan. This is just a map real quick showing how the proposed development integrates with the existing Bria subdivision and its street layout to the north. This is the landscape plan. Then back to the pathways. One of the multi-use pathway segments follow the Williams pipeline easement diagonally across the site. And that is the green area right here. Another segment runs along the southern boundary within the street buffer along I-84. The Parks Department has requested a pathway connection be provided between the pipeline pathway and the nearby sidewalk along Coral Reef Way. A pedestrian circulation plan is proposed as shown that depicts all sidewalks and pedestrian pathways planned throughout the site in accordance with the 10-mile plan for mixed-use areas. A conditional use permit is proposed for a multifamily development consisting of 552 dwelling units with a mix of 3-story apartments and 2-story flats and townhome style buildings, ranging from 758 to 1,693 square feet on 40.33 acres of land in the R15 zoning district. A 9,368 square foot single-story clubhouse is proposed with amenities along with 2 other amenity buildings. 9 garden-style apartment buildings containing a total of 216 units and 51 flats and townhome-style buildings are proposed containing a total of 336 units with a mix of 1, 2, and 3-bedroom units. Common open space and site amenities are proposed in accord with UDC standards. A total of 7.5 acres of common open space is required. A total of 8.99 acres is proposed. A minimum of 4 amenities are required. Amenities from all of the required categories are proposed as follows: a clubhouse with a swimming pool, hot tub and cabanas, an outdoor kitchen and dining area, fitness lounge, lawn games and a fire pit lounge, pickleball court, children's play area, dog parks, a smaller swimming pool, picnic shelter, and fire pit lounge, art, pedestrian walkways, 10-foot wide sidewalks along the Collector Street, Vanguard, and an amenity area with a barbecue lounge. Conceptual building elevations were submitted for the proposed apartment, flat, and townhome style units, and the clubhouse buildings. I'll just go through those real quick. These are the garden style apartments. These are the townhomes. More townhomes. And this is the clubhouse. Updated building materials consist of vertical and horizontal hardy plank siding in light gray, green, and wood colors, stucco and dark gray and off-white colors, and vertical western red cedar siding with cedar posts and beams and asphalt shingles. These elevations are not approved. Final design is required to comply with the design guidelines in the 10-mile plan and the design standards in the Architectural Standards Manual. Written testimony was received from the applicant. They submitted comments in response to the staff report, which staff responded to. The applicant found the response acceptable and noted that after tonight's hearing, a few clarifications may be needed, but nothing of significance. No other testimony has been submitted on this application. Staff is recommending approval with the amended development agreement provisions and conditions in the staff report. Staff will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Sonia. This time, would the applicant like to come forward?
a few.
Go ahead. And if you want to lift the microphones up and state your name and address for the record.
Just wait till the presentation comes up. Thank you. So good evening to the commission. Sonia's done such a great job that I hope I don't bore you here. Joanne Butler, 967 East Park Center Boulevard, representing the applicant. With me tonight on Zoom are Jim Zeter and Arilia Newman for the applicant. Denton Kelly and his colleagues for LDK Ventures is here, along with their attorney, Deb Nelson. And Deb's going to take the floor in just a few minutes to address the commission in connection with the North 40 that Sonia just mentioned, the conditional use request. John Carpenter from TO Engineers is here to answer any technical questions. We did really appreciate working with staff, going through the staff report. We also appreciated that the commission deferred this last month for a month. We had just gotten the ACHD report and we needed to review that. And that allowed us to address that report and adjust our phasing to minimize any kind of traffic impact. We will be making significant improvements to the road system, especially in the first phase with the development of Vanguard Way all the way from 10 Mile to the west boundary of the property. And our phasing ensures that the land development is not built in advance of the transportation system. By the way, the applicant is working with the property owner immediately north and to the east of this property to jointly develop Vanguard Way. I'm not sure exactly how to move. Yeah, they don't seem to. Oh, thanks. Okay. As Sonia mentioned, this property was annexed and zoned in 2009, 2010 was when the development agreement was recorded. The concept plan proposed was consistent with a 10-mile plan objective to ensure that Meridian in this area of town didn't close down at the end of the workday, with a wide diversity of housing types, a mix of residential, commercial, and employment opportunities. In 2010, the 10-mile interchange was not actually finished, and the east side of 10 Mile was completely a gleam in somebody's eye. In 2010, the city recognized that these unusual zoning boundaries would change as the street system was modified when we came through with a conceptual plan like we are today. Those streets have been modified and the city recognized that the land use and the zoning boundaries would again be modified accordingly. Thanks, Sonia. If you could, one more. Other way. Okay. No. Thank you. Okay, so with this slide, we're showing both the streets and the land use boundaries actually have been modified. And the zoning is actually the same as it was in 2020 with the boundaries modified to be much less fragmented and to flow with the overall circulation plan. You've got the R15. We actually were approved with an R40, as Sonia mentions, but the development agreement required us to only develop in accord with R15 standards. So rather than do it that way, we said, let's just go with R15. It makes it clearer for everybody to understand. Next. So on this phase, we're showing the overall site plan and the phasing as Sonia went over. We've got phase 1 will include all of Vanguard Way coming from 10 Mile going west and 366 units within the first phase of the multifamily. Although it's not shown on here, there will be a secondary access going north. You will require us to extend a water line up that way, and we will be putting a road over there. So there will be secondary access going to the north. Next, Sonia, thanks. Well, maybe okay, there's the overall landscape plan. As Sonia mentioned, the remarkable line that cuts through Project Vanguard is the Williams or Northwest Pipeline. The landscape pathways, the open space, the fitness areas planned for this pipeline easement assist the applicant meet the 10-mile plan goal of connecting land uses through the pathways, through the sidewalks, through the open spaces. The goals of the master pathway plan is also addressed with this concept plan, both with the Northwest Pipeline pathway, but also along I-84. The master pathways plan calls for the Meridian Pathway Loop to continue in that area, and that will be continued as well. So both those pathway components provide walkable routes for the project Vanguard internally, but also for our neighbors to the north, to the west, and also to the east as we head towards 10 Mile. I'm not going to go, oh yeah, street sections. The only thing I'm going to say about street sections is that staff and ACHD staff and John worked really hard to get street sections in place that both governmental agencies, ACHD and Meridian, found acceptable. This slide and the next several slides show the design elements and the land uses. I'm not going to go into any detail there. These are all the design elements and the details for the development south of Vanguard Way. So with that, I'm going to turn the podium over to Deb Nelson to describe the area north of Vanguard Way, and then she and I and our team will be available for any questions.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Commission, Deborah Nelson, 601 West Bannock Street. As Joanne mentioned, I'm going to focus in on the conditional use permit. I get to show you some pretty pictures of buildings and amenities. It's the fun part. So Vanguard Crossing is the residential community that's within this larger mixed use area. We appreciate staff support of the use as proposed, and we're in agreement with their conditions. I guess we'll stay on that one for a minute. It includes this range of housing types with 1 and 2 bedrooms in the apartments, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom flats and townhome style in buildings that are arranged with 4 to 8 units, creating quite the variety. There will be only 366 of these in the first phase to comply with the phasing plan provided by ACHD. We will also have extensive open space, taking full advantage of the pipeline that runs through that Joanne and staff have mentioned. And we will have pathways throughout, as well as extensive amenities. As Sonia mentioned, 4 amenities are required. We have over 18 here. Just want to briefly show the layout of the heights that you can see. Most of the buildings here are 2-story townhome style buildings, with the 3-story apartments on the southwest and south, providing a great transition from the R8 residential to the north and the mixed employment to the south. Again, just to show you a little variety of the townhome type, the building types that are dispersed throughout. Sonia showed you our elevations. Just want to highlight there's a variety of colors and materials with architectural variation in the facades and the building roof heights. The interiors of the units will have a high-end modern finish with stainless steel appliances and kitchen islands and other finishes that you would expect from a nicer residential product. Similarly, the apartment buildings have complementary colors and materials, architectural variation in the facades, varying roof peak heights, and well-defined and welcoming patios and balconies. The clubhouse presents a striking look in the central amenity space with classic materials, including ashlar stone at the chimneys, a dramatic 3-foot overhanging eaves with cedar post support and large windows. Roll-up glass doors face the pool and the amenity area, bringing the outside in. The clubhouse is going to serve as the community center for residents to provide opportunities for gathering, for meeting, using the remote workspaces, the fitness center, outdoor barbecues, indoor and outdoor lounges with fireplaces, and extensive recreation areas. Turning now to the site plan and the amenity features. You can see here the central amenity area with its location within the larger site plan. Central amenity area has that clubhouse I just described, a pool, pickleball courts, play structure, pathways, a picnic and barbecue areas, and a game lawn. You can see that here in this rendering as well. The central spine amenity provides the multi-use pathways, extensive landscaping and gathering nodes and seating throughout the development. And the amenities are dispersed. So you've got amenity areas in each area, not just in the large central amenity area. Up here in the Northwest, we have additional landscaped pathways and one of the dog parks. In the Northeast, we have a second pool and pool house. In the Southwest, we have another play structure in the barbecue area. In the Southeast, a second dog park. You have the extensive network of pathways that provides recreation opportunities for not only our residents, but the adjoining neighborhoods as well, and provides safe pedestrian and bike commuting opportunities to connect residential areas with the employment areas. Here's just some concept images of some of our amenities. Then I just have a couple of design standards to address with you. This development is within and designed in accordance with the 10-mile plan. We have just a couple of areas that we ask for flexibility within your detailed design standards for buildings. As you know, our buildings are going to be subject to a design review process that will follow this. But this is our opportunity to ask the city decision makers for guidance on that towards staff to provide them some direction on just a couple of areas where we plan to seek some changes from the standards. The first area involves the roof pitch for certain architectural features. The 10-mile plan provides as a general guidance that these roof pitches fall within a range of 412 to 1212. The vast majority of our buildings do that. We ask for two exceptions to be recognized. One is for our amenity buildings, and this includes the clubhouse and the two smaller amenity buildings that are purposely designed with a lower pitch roof, this 212 pitch, and that striking 3-foot overhang to create an attractive and unique element that is set apart from the remainder of the residential community and really identifies it as this distinct gathering place. The clubhouse is a modern interpretation of the shed roof style, which is seen on barns and traditional farmhouses that are part of the history of Meridian. So it's an intentional and important gesture to make this clubhouse this marquee architectural statement within the development, bringing in that history with also a nod to the new. The townhome garage roof has a similar slope with a 312 pitch, also proportional. And looking to that shed style, it not only creates dimensional interest, but it's also very functional in this location, as we've tried to show you here with this lower left image, because it allows the larger windows and lower sills. If it's steeper, you block that opportunity for the second story to have that room for that feature. The second design standard we ask for some direction on involves the 10-mile plan's guidance to provide front stoops that face public streets at 18 to 24 inches above grade. This creates a problem for ADA compliance, for accessibility to the front entrances of these residences. We also note that you have many places in the 10-mile plan that promotes human scale accessibility, bringing the front entries closer to the sidewalk and really creating that feel of a pedestrian friendly environment. We feel that the design that we're proposing accomplishes that. We also appreciate the idea, the architectural idea in this design element with promoting that, elevated stoop. It's really to create a dramatic feel to the entrance. And we feel like we accomplished that through having our adjacent patio railings that really frame off that entrance and the balconies that cover it that also frame in that door. You've got places in your 10-mile plan, again, that talk about the importance of having where you have homes that front streets but are accessible by garages and parking in the back, that you really give both facades fair treatment and usable entries. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. In the rear, you access through the garage, and in the front, you have this main entry. And we'd like it to not just be decorative, but to truly be a usable entry that meets the building code for ADA compliance and the Fair Housing Act for accessibility. So with those requests, I'll stand for questions with the team.
Okay, thank you. At this point, do we have questions for the applicant or staff?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Larcher, go ahead.
for staff, the pathway that goes along I-84, it shows it on this parcel. Is the idea that that is going to kind of continue as development goes between 10 Mile and Black Cat?
Mr. Chair, Councilwoman Larcher, yes, that is the intent.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Yearsley, go ahead.
can you go back to the slide that you had 2 and 3 stories? It went through pretty fast, and I wanted to make sure I understood which ones were 2 and 3 story.
Commissioner Yearsley? That's the one.
Yeah, I was kind of making sure that we didn't have the 3-story up against the residential to the north. So thank you.
Commissioner Grace, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure who this question is for, maybe the applicant, but do you, and forgive me if this is an obvious question that that doesn't need to be an issue for me. Do you happen to know how deep that 24-inch pipeline is?
Chairman, Commissioner Grace, I don't, but we have our engineering team
Yeah,
with us. They probably are the 6 feet. 6 feet.
okay. And I assume that's probably some federal regulation that it has to be a certain depth, but I only asked the question because it looks like it's in that pathway common area, and obviously that's a item that would be very important to keep safe. And I'm wondering if 6 feet sounds sufficient to me, but I'm wondering if there's any comment you might have about the ability, potential likelihood, or anything that it could get damaged, that people would be digging in that area or anything like that, because again, it is a common area.
Chairman, Commissioner Grace, will certainly comply with all the city standards for depth and for separation between the water and the sewer.
Thank you. Couple questions I've got here. So I'll just start out with the first one. And you mentioned a secondary access to the north. Can you add a little flavor to that? I just want to make sure we're talking about something that's going to be like an emergency access, not regular access here, or like a cut through.
Chairman, that's correct. We will only provide emergency access at this time until, as authorized by ACHD and incorporated as conditions here, until there is alternate access up to Franklin or to Black Cat. So at this time, it will only be bollarded emergency access to the north.
Okay. And this one between you and Sonia, I've heard a lot of different numbers thrown out. We've got 136, limited to 136 units, 552 total units, but you said you would be limited to 366 units. So what are we limited to by ACHD?
Chairman, I could jump in and that Sonia can answer as well. I think Sonia, you mistakenly did say 136. So we were correcting that in our presentation to say 366, which is the number that ACHD has authorized there.
Sorry, thank you. I was reading the options straight out of the ACHD report. One of the options was for the 136 and the other was for the 336. So
366.
excuse me. Yes, whatever. It's in your hearing outline.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Or
I
you can
just,
reference the ACHD report. It's site-specific condition number 1.
gotcha.
They left the applicant some options to comply.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Third question is on the variation of the roof pitch and the front porch elevation. Is that something that's going to be essentially handled by city council as part of the CZC, or?
Chairman, members of the commission, that is part of the design review process. There's design guidelines in the 10-mile interchange specific area plan that are subject to buildings within this area, as well as the architectural standards manual design guidelines. The applicant is requesting that commission council approve an alternative roof pitch for certain buildings out there. And they would like that memorialized in the development agreement or direction given to staff on preference, or if that's amenable to them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else have questions?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Orchard, go ahead.
for staff, in regard to the roof pitch request, in the 10-mile interchange, building plans have any waivers or alternatives already been approved? Or would this be the first?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Orchard, excuse me, are you referring to this development or
Just in general? like, have
in
we
the
done
10-mile
wa-
area?
Right, have we done
Uh,
waivers before? For
I'm
roof
unsure,
pitch?
to be honest with you.
Okay.
There's no real waiver in the 10-mile plan. They are design guidelines. They are not standards.
Okay, so
um,
guidelines.
So for, I believe the 10-mile plan says for it all possible or something to that effect, that all roof pitches should be between those pitches specified.
Other questions, comments? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll take public testimony. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up?
Mr. Chair, we do. The first of which is Garrett Scott, who's online. Garrett, you should have the ability to unmute yourself.
Hi, yes, I'm just here as part of the Vanguard team to answer any questions if necessary. Thank you.
Can you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, I apologize. Garrett Scott, and my address is 507 18th Street in Cody, Wyoming.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Scott? Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, next is TJ Winger, also online. TJ, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, we can. Go ahead and give us your name and address for the record. And
Thank you. TJ Winger, 800 West Main, Boise, Idaho, part of the architecture team on the project. Just wanted to say thank you for your time and give a brief mention on the roof slope and the ADA requirements. We've probably got 5,000 units in design right now in various scales of projects and sizes, and done quite an extensive amount of studying these project types similar to you guys. In trying to make these projects successful, we often see that the amenity portion of the project is something that's set apart and different, identifiable, and adds excitement to the project. And with this particular request for the roof slopes, we feel that that's the intent, and the goal there is to make a sense of place within the community that acts as the gathering place. It's identifiable by children. It's identifiable by the neighbors and surrounding community users. So we do think that that's an exciting element that could really strengthen the project as a whole and give that sense of place within the community. Regarding the ADA requirements, we are helping other clients that have this problem and are in lawsuits currently because they checked a box rather than following through in-depth study of ADA, ICC, FHA requirements for their projects. And so knowing that, we just wanted to bring that to the attention of the city so that we could have this discussion to make sure we're designing projects that are in accordance with ICC and FHA. The stoops are very nice. We love that. It creates that front porch feel, neighborhood streets. It activates the streets, really gives a sense of place and scale. And so we tried to accommodate that in the design with the railings at the front porch, the coverings of the front porch, so that all of the elements and concepts behind a stoop are in place. The only item that is missing is the steps so that we can make those ADA compliant. But you will notice on the design that every front door is covered, every front door has a porch, and every front door has the elements that are desired from what a stoop brings. But we just are asking for consideration on the steps that come along with that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Next
Mr.
person.
Chair, that's all that I have indicating a wish to testify.
Would anybody in chambers like to come up and testify? So just raise your hand. No, anybody online? Do we have anybody raising hand online?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair.
Okay. With that, would the applicant like to come back up?
Mr. Chair,
Oh,
before we
Mr.
start,
Easley, go ahead.
can I just ask if there's anybody from Williams Pipeline in the audience today? Most times I usually have someone come in for these type of deals, so I wasn't sure if anybody was here. Sounds like no. Thank you.
All right, if the applicant would like to come back.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, thank you for your consideration of this project. I know there was a lot of materials in the record. We appreciate your careful review of it. Especially appreciate Sonia and her team because I know she did a ton of work on this. And through that effort, we've really been able to come to a project that I think we can be proud of, and hopefully you can too. We have been coordinating, Commissioner Yearsley, to your question just then, we have been coordinating extensively with the Williams Pipeline folks, as we will continue to do with the service providers here. And just a little bit of reminder for context, this is a rezone and change to an existing approved development here. And the uses that are being proposed with this development are all cumulatively less intense than what is already approved here. So we think for all the reasons that Joanne laid out so well in her presentation, you've got increased connectivity and ability to take advantage of the pipeline here and the roads. And so we think it's going to be a great opportunity to improve upon what you guys have already approved in the past. So we thank you for your consideration. We ask for your support and your approval. We do ask for your comments to staff if you're so inclined on the design standards we addressed. And but we are in support of the staff report and the conditions of approval. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, or
Mr. Yearsley, go ahead.
sorry.
I'm not Rhonda.
I know I've been so used to Rhonda. So just with that, with the Williams Pipeline, have you been in contact with them regarding the landscaping, and have they had a chance to review that and are okay with the landscaping?
Chairman, Commissioner Yearsley, yes, they are in support of the landscaping, which, as you may note, doesn't include trees within their easement area.
Yeah, I noticed it was pretty intense with the landscaping, so I wanted to make sure that they
Yes.
had a chance to review that. So thank you.
I have a quick question on it seemed like there was two different options given by ACHD, one with 156 units, the other with 366 units. Of the one with 156, sounds like they were trying, that included more commercial development at the time. Can you speak to that?
I may need to grab the staff report to look at the exact language, but Chairman, the short answer is that that ACHD was trying to provide options that would have the same impact and protectivity of traffic, specifically to keep our trip generation within the 3,000 trips that Vanguard Way as a single access for the first phase could support. And so they provided options that would accomplish that. And the option that we've selected to move forward with the phasing that we've proposed includes 366 units of the multifamily and the mixed employment area to our south, so that you get a combination of the mixed use elements here.
Okay, thank you.
Then with that,
Mr. Usually, go ahead.
They are planning to do a signal at that intersection too, correct? At 10 Mile and Vanguard Way?
Chairman, Commissioner Yearsley, yes.
Chairman, isn't there already a light there at Vanguard?
Chairman, Commissioners, we will be adding the extension and turn lanes associated with the Vanguard improvements at that light, improving the signal that's there.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, can I get a motion to close the public hearing for item number H 2021-0081?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for item number H 2021-0081. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Would like to comment first?
Mr. Chair?
Go right ahead.
Yes, I've personally liked this plan, mainly because I think there's a lot of features to it, but one of them is that they are, when they went from an R40 to an R15 use on this, I'm liking to see more properties not carry as much density on them. I like the street, I like the landscaping plan that's here. I like the extra amenities that are there, the pickleball courts. I have a good friend that's a pickleball player. He's going to be excited about that, more and more of that in the area. I think we've seen plans before or concepts before that have carried much greater density than these. And so that's nice to see. And when it's speaking to the pitch on the roof and the ADA compliance on not having the steps on there, I'm in support of both of that from what they've put forward. It makes sense to go ahead and have a flat access up to the front onto the ground level floors, or excuse me, to the ground level apartments. And the pitch on the roof, maybe I'm missing something here on what the big to do about having the sit and ride the pitch on the roof and things. But to me, being within those kind of standards or within those guidelines, I'm not seeing the bigger issue here. So.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Yearsley, go ahead.
I actually like the revised phasing on this to try to minimize the amount of access to Franklin. My initial look at this was very concerning that they'd have a lot of cut through traffic through that residential area. So I like the updated phasing regarding that. I also, when I initially looked at the staff report, I was concerned that they'd had more 3 stories in that area as well. So I like the fact that they've staggered that and had more of the 2 stories. So gives me a little bit more better level of comfort where that's going in. And I with the roof pitch variation, where it's only a small portion of the structures, that's the smaller pitch. I think that's very appropriate to do that, to kind of give it a different feel or a different look. And requiring the 18 to 24, I'm sure they could make it work with the ADA compliance, but I don't know if that to me is a big issue either. So I'd be okay with both of those variations.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'll jump in here a little bit and say I really, really like this product. I like the way that it's got good spacing. It integrates well. I think the R15 over the R40 is going to transition a lot better. The pathways and the rideability, walkability, runability of it, especially if you kind of live, work in that area where you can do just about anything you want in that area, I find that to be very nice for sure. So as far as the variation on the roof pitch, I'm kind of in the same camp as others that have spoken so far, so I don't mind that, especially since it is a central amenity. It's designed to be different. It's designed to look different. you know, as long as that doesn't get us too far out of the 10-mile plan, I think that that's acceptable as, you know, essentially a one-off in the place as a central structure. The front porch elevations, I'll leave that up to staff. I mean, obviously we want to be ADA compliant. So if there's something in our, if there's something in the 10-mile plan that makes that, you know, non-attainable, then obviously that's something that we'll want to take a look at within the guidelines of it. Having a 0 threshold on there, if that's kind of where they're going with it, I have some reservations about that, just because when we get snow and we get rain, and if that sinks in a little bit towards the front door, you got a great big icy puddle there. So hopefully that's not where we're going with it, but I wouldn't think that that would be the case. One of the concerns I have here is just with the 3 stories on the west side of the property, just talking about transitions and how we're going to transition to the property that gets developed to the west of that when it develops. I think maybe pulling those 3 stories inward and putting the 2 stories on the west side would help to transition better when that happens, instead of forcing somebody to come up with something that's going to help transition into a 3-story wall, you know, right at their border. I think that maybe moving those 3 stories in would be helpful, for sure. As far as the phasing plan, I share Commissioner Yearsley's sentiments on that. I would actually like to see less of the residential develop and more of the commercial develop. I know there's a gold rush on to buy houses here, but the thing that we need more than a place to go is a place to go to, meaning that, you know, we've got plenty of people here that need a place to work. So it'd be nice to see more emphasis on the work portion, less than the live portion, but I do like that they're going to develop together.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Lurcher, go ahead.
since we're voting tonight on the development agreement modification, well, it says no action required from commission, a rezone, a preliminary plat, and a conditional use permit. In regard to the front porch elevations and the roof pitch, is that part of our motion, or we're not really voting on that? We're voting on the rezone, plat, and conditional use permit, correct?
That's correct, but like Sonia had said earlier, that's part of the 10-mile plan, so it's part of the design standard.
So when we make a motion, we need to address the variations of the roof pitch and the front porch elevations, or no?
Well, Sonia, you can speak to this, but my understanding is it's already in the
staff report?
Staff report, or the applicants respond to the staff report and your response to them as far as where we stand on that. Is that correct?
Chairman, that's pretty much correct. It is part of the development agreement modification that is acted on by city council, which is not before you. However, you're free to make any recommendations to council you wish with the application.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Yearsley?
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval to City Council of file number H 2021-0081 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of March 17th, 2022, with the following recommendations: that the requested design standard changes be approved.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item number H 2021-0081 Vanguard Village with the aforementioned modifications. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, so at this time, I'd like to open the public hearing for item number H 2022-0002, Facey's Childcare. Hopefully I said that name right. And we'll begin with staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Hopefully I also say this one right. Okay, this is a proposal for a conditional use. Alan Tiefenbach, Associate Planner with the City of Meridian, sorry. Site consists of just about 0.17 acres of land. It's zoned R4. It's located at 1322 East Grand Canyon Street, which is southwest of East McMillan and North Locust Grove Road. So the history of this property is that in 2021, there was an accessory use permit that was issued to this property to allow a family daycare. A family daycare is categorized as a daycare of 6 children and less. Since that time, the applicant has had another child. And because the applicant has had another child and several of the child that they are watching are actually not part of their family, this kicks them up to being what is called a group daycare, which is more than 6, less than 12. Because of that, a conditional use permit is required. My understanding from talking to the applicant is that is the only change to what is presently occurring there. They don't plan on at this point having any more children except the one that they had. The way that it works right now, they pick up and deliver the children. So they don't typically have people coming there. Of course, once in a while, I'm sure that happens, but the usual operation is that they pick up the children and they bring the children home. It operates from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They said that the playtime is limited to 1 hour after 9 a.m. and 1 hour after 1 p.m. In a fenced backyard. And there is an additional parking space in front of the house and several along the curb if they needed to for pickup and delivery. We did receive 2 letters this week in opposition. The concerns expressed include traffic, whether or not there are going to be safety issues parking. There was also a comment about the CC&Rs from the HOA and whether or not this kind of business would be allowed in the subdivision. If that gets too far into that discussion, I'll defer to Kurt, our city attorney, but in general, we don't get involved in the civil matters between an HOA and the applicant. They're just requesting to us whether or not the city would allow them to do this use. With that, I would stand for any questions or if the applicant is online and wants to speak further.
Okay. At this time, would the applicant like to come forward?
Applicant may be online.
Sorry, Mr. Chair. I see you should have the ability to unmute yourself.
Yeah, we here.
Yes, we can hear you.
Please state your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours.
This is Eric, and I'm the husband of Faisi. And the address is 1322 East Grand Canyon Street, Meridian, Idaho 83646.
Okay, go ahead and tell us about your project, please.
So our project, like what he said, I think he mentioned everything that we wrote in there. And for people who's concerning about the parking and traffic, most of the kids we get is from ICCP. It means most of the parents, we have to pick up the kids, and normally we just go and pick up the kids with our own car. So I do the driving or my wife does the driving. So with the traffic, it won't be a problem, or parking, because we're using our own car. And if a parent want to pick up the kid, they can just use our driveway to pick up and drop off. Yeah, so honestly, we did have same like license of 12 in Boise. We were like a Moonridge place in the south. We never had any problem with that because kids don't make, they usually play in our background, and we limit, like he mentioned, we usually we limit an hour, and we tried our best. We always do our best to keeping the neighbors, like to be keeping quiet as possible for the neighbors. So that won't be a problem. And as in CCNR, like HOA, I asked them, and they say as long as we don't put a sign or we don't mess up the traffic, we don't cause any jam anywhere, it shouldn't be a problem. Or if we tend to have that kind of traffic problem, then we have to talk to us. So I believe it won't be a problem on that. Yeah, as my wife's saying, most of those people, they don't have cars, and so for them to drive, and that's why they're getting help from the health and welfare for the ICCP to help them pay for the childcare, and we do provide the transportation.
99%.
Okay, thank you. You have anything else to add?
Good minute, I can't repeat it. Yes, like my wife, she just said, yeah, if we get an approval, we really appreciate it, because that's the only thing she does. We've been doing that for 6 years, and we haven't faced any kind of problem. And for those who are concerned with like the issue that they mentioned later, that won't be a problem. They won't even know anything about like we have anybody in the house. They won't know because it's programmed. We have enough play inside for them. And if it goes 1 hour to play outside, it won't be a problem. There's somebody there to watch so they don't make noise. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Wheeler, go ahead.
Hello, Eric, this is Commissioner Wheeler. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, sir.
Good. I just have some kind of quick clarifying questions, because I just wanted to make sure that I'm understanding it here correctly. So you guys already have a daycare license that you've been using for 6 years, is that right?
So yeah, we lived in Boise. We were in Boise, and we were doing a license of 12 with the city of Boise. And because of the house had like most of the bedroom upstairs, and my wife, she wasn't able to keep going up and down to check on the kids. And at that time when she got pregnant, we decided to sell so we can move to Meridian. We found a good house here that we love. And we were doing the license of 12. And once we got here, they told us like, we have to do 6 for now. And we did apply for 6. Right now we have 6 that we were approved. And we've been doing for the 12 for the last, we started since 2016.
Okay. All right. And then from what I also understood, that it is your wife being pregnant that is moving you into this new category and why you have to come through for a conditional use permit. Is that what I understand?
Yes. So whenever we, because if they give us a license of 12, the license of 6, and my wife being pregnant, that means we cannot go. And now she already have a baby anyway. She had a baby in December now. She had a baby in December. We have a couple years old baby here. And this will really help moving. So whenever we have another kid, it means that we cannot watch the 6th kid. And then now, because it becomes 7, we are not allowed to watch, according to the license that we have, we only approved to watch 6. And if we watch more than that, it's illegal. We can't do that. We have to have 6 with ours. So her having this baby, it pushes the limit. That means we have to take some of my kids. I have to take them to my dad's house, to grandpa, so we don't watch, so we don't mess up the numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one last question. Are you looking to try to add more children to watch, like, 8, 9, 10, start moving that up more?
So that is if it's possible, if not, but we stay like that because the reason why we said that is, let's say she gets again pregnant, we're gonna need it again. We're gonna need again to come back and ask for that, and that's the reason why we need that room. We need that more room. If it's possible, we get those kids. So I don't know how I can.
Okay, that's fine for my understanding on it. And then I was also reading some of the documents here, and it sounds like you drive and go pick up the children and bring them back to the house. Is that how I understand it?
Yes, I do drive. Most of the parents don't drive, so I do drive, or my wife will drive. I will go pick up the kid and drop and bring them inside. And there is only one of the things that she comes and drop in the door, and then she'll pick her up. And she usually use our driveway because we park inside.
Very good. And then on a personal note, how's your baby doing? Doing well?
She's doing good, but we're still trying to get some sleep at night. but other than that, she's good. She's doing fantastic. There's
Very
no
good.
problem yet. Yeah.
Very good. Well, congratulations. And thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Yep, go ahead, Commissioner Grace.
Good evening, Eric. This is Commissioner Grace. I just have a quick question about your transportation. Do you pick up all the children at the same time or bring them home at the same time, or do you do that in multiple trips?
So like that's a good one. Cause so like picking them up, I will go and pick them up because they live different places, right? So I'll go and pick them up and then come in. And some parents will get home earlier than another one. So I'll go drop off that one and then come drop off the other one later. And so we usually just do that in my because I have a Honda that has more space. I usually just get in the garage and put them in there in the car seat and then draw and take off. So it depends of the days, the schedule. Sometimes the parents might get earlier before the other one. So I will have to go drop off one and then come and drop off the other.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? All right. So at this time, if there's no further questions for the applicant or staff, we'll like take public testimony. Is there anybody signed up?
Mr. Chair, we have a couple people signed in. The first is Lewis P.
Good evening, sir. Just give us your name and address for the record, and the floor is yours.
Chairman Seal, members of the committee. Good evening. For the record, my name is Louis Pfeiffer. I reside at 4562 North Heritage View Avenue, Meridian, Idaho, 83646. And I stand opposed to the applicant's request for a conditional use permit to operate a child care facility at 1322 East Grand Canyon in Havasu Creek subdivision. I live 2 houses from this property and have lived in my residence since June of 2004. On the closing of the purchase of my home, I received and agreed to the declaration of conditions and restrictions of Havasu Creek subdivision recorded on 8/26 of 2003, as have all current and future owners. Article 3, Section 1 states, each lot shall be used for residential purposes as used Herein, residential shall mean the use of the dwelling unit on the lot for living accommodations, not for more than 2 unrelated persons, excluding guests of the principal occupant, which guest may reside therein on a temporary basis. Residential is not intended, nor shall the same be construed to include the use of the lot for the occupation of a shelter home for persons unrelated to each other or unrelated to the owner or occupant. Article 3, Section 7 states, commercial use prohibited. Unless specifically admitted in a supplemental declaration, no lot shall be used at any time for commercial or business activity, provided, however, that the declarant or other persons authorized by the declarant may use lot for development and sales activity related to subject property. Any owner shall be permitted to rent the owner's lot and improvements thereon for residential purposes, provided the use is limited to section 3.1 herein and otherwise in compliance with this declaration. Any lease allowing occupancy or residency of the lot or use of any portion of the lot within the subject property shall be subject in all respects to this declaration. I am unaware of any attempts to amend the CCNRs of Havasu Creek subdivision to allow for this exception. Also, in the application, it is stated that a neighborhood informational meeting was noticed and held on December 27th, 2021, with no attendees. I can tell you I live 2 doors away and we did not receive any notice of this meeting. And as far as I'm aware, there's never been an application for a daycare center at that site in Meridian. They declared that they had a license to do this in Boise, but this is not Boise. This is Meridian. I thank you for your consideration on this matter.
Does anybody have any questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chair, Siegfried Sendig.
Good evening, sir.
And commissioners.
You could state your name and
my
address
name-
for the record.
yes, my name is Siegfried Sendig, and I live at 4499 North Heritage Woods Way, Meridian, Idaho, just around the corner from where the applicants are. I know I have a 3-minute limit, and I definitely will abide by that. I don't know if somebody left a thing here or anyways here. Probably all of us have kids. I've got a lot of grandkids, and I don't know, is this on or something changed? Okay. So we all love kids. We love kids. I love my grandkids. When I hear something like this is awesome. But as pointed out, somebody moving an existing business into our trying to bend the rules, trying to bend. Sorry, I've lived here for over 16 years. I love the neighborhood. I love the things that we're riding bicycles at 11 o'clock at night. It's just such a community. You know, I voted 3 times for the previous mayor. And so I just love this area. We've got voted twice. I think it's for the best city in the country to raise kids in. But we have rules and regulations. makes us good. Trying to bend them. I don't think it's a good thing to change from R4 to something else. Now there's 6. Well, might come on the ones that's on there. Well, then we have to bend the rules. Take too much of my time. I'll finish reading what I wrote. I request that any daycare in the Havasu Creek subdivision be denied, including the request at 1322 East Grand Canyon Street, Meridian, in the Havasu Creek subdivision. The Havasu Creek subdivision is 19 years old. I bought my house over 16 years ago. I knew my subdivision had CCNRs in place that I have lived by all these years. Our CCNRs do not allow zoning changes, simply for the reason that zoning changes could be exploited for many reasons and diminish the quality of life that we have been able to experience over these years. I'm a little bit dry. Our street traffic has already been recently increased. We are now through traffic for 2 recently added subdivisions off McMillan Road. East Red Rock Road is the main entrance for our subdivision off Locust Grove and is a major township road, as is McMillan Road. East Star Road, which is only 4 houses away from East Red Rock Road, which is our main access to Locust Grove, is now reduced to a one-way road. Now, a year and a half ago in this chamber, I witnessed the thing is that that road cannot handle the traffic. The existing,
That's your time, sir.
oh,
If you want to go ahead and finish up, we'll listen.
yeah, and the HOA guy, the thing is, contradicted me. Well, he's now wrong, because the thing is that is a one-way road with cars parked on both sides. 5 subdivisions. That is the new ones, ours, Raspberry Crossing, Heritage Common, Copper Basin, and the Bernie Glen subdivision. Because when I turned off McMillan Meridian Road, I ended up behind a resident who pulled out of his driveway, and I followed him down to my house. But I think before that, he turned off on East Star Road to access Locust Grove. So 5 subdivisions are squeezing 2 hours. Just can't have it. Please, pleading with you guys. Please consider the things that we have. We don't want to do that. We know the things are overcrowded and stuff coming to our area. We love it, but at the same time, we don't want to feel like rats in the food. Please.
Thank you, sir. Madam Chair.
Mr. Chair, that's all I have. That's all I have signed up. But thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. If anybody else in chambers would like to come up and testify, or anybody online, please press the raise hand button. No takers? All right, if the applicant would like to come forward again, we'll give you 10 minutes to speak.
Mr. Chairman, is it
Go ahead.
possible at this point to ask a question of one of the gentlemen who spoke?
Absolutely. If they'd like to come back up.
Just Ms. Lewis, I think that's your first name, just because you maybe live a little closer. I had a quick question for you. Do you have any specific concerns, whether it's safety or noise or traffic or I don't know that I heard you indicate any specific concerns you have about the potential for more.
Well, the most specific concern I have as a past homeowners association president, everybody wants to make an exception to the rule. The person that moves in 2 doors down that decided to run a muffler shop out of his garage. The person that was 4 doors down that decided he was going to run a meth lab out of his house. All of these things, I wouldn't expect them to come here and ask you for an exception. But we, as residents, are expected, when I moved in, like I said, and everybody else has moved in, and the people that are here applying for this moved in less than 6 months ago, they had those set of covenants given to them. They had an opportunity to find a subdivision or to find a location that would allow the daycare center in their subdivision. We have a daycare center less than 1 mile away on Star Lane that is zoned for that. Ours is not zoned for that. They are asking for an exception. It is not. I didn't come here asking for an exception. I came here to ask you not to put an exception. This also does not, the thing they didn't mention is also puts more school buses into the neighborhood because these are exceptional kids and they have to be bused from the house. So they stop in front of the house to pick up. And as a school board member, I don't mind that, coming into the neighborhood to get it. But to increase, if it's my student, if it's your student, that's fine. But if you're bringing in 6 or 7 students that are going to be bused from your location, then I kind of start to have a little problem about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wheeler, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask him some more questions too, since he's posted here. Hello, it's Lewis, is that right?
Yes.
Lewis, so the school bus situation that you just brought up here. So you're saying that there was already a stop that was there?
No.
Okay, so there's an additional stop that's made.
Correct.
Okay, so from my understanding of, I've had 3 kids all gone through the Meridian School District. School bus routes just change based upon density of population of kids that are in there, right?
Correct. And there are school bus stops at the front of the neighborhood, but exceptional kids are bused on special buses, and they are picked up and dropped off at their home.
Okay, so what you're saying is that you don't like the extra special bus that swings by their house to pick up the kids?
I'm just saying it does create more traffic in the neighborhood.
Okay.
In front of their house. Even if they're going to pick up all of these children and bringing them home, they're not making the trips to the school.
By exceptional kids, you're meaning kids with special needs? Is that what you're getting at?
Kids with special needs.
Okay, so my question is, as somebody that's a Meridian, resident in Meridian, as you are too, right?
Correct.
We want to take care of our neighborhood and everything like this. Where do we draw the line then on where we start to say it's okay for a bus that comes through with special needs or not?
I have no
into
qualms
coming
about
into
the
our-
bus coming through. I have qualms about the exception to the rule that the daycare center is allowed where it's not supposed to be.
No, I heard that, but
have-
then you also brought up the issue of the school bus, and that's why I wanted to address that.
Well, I only brought up the issue of the school bus to say that there is more traffic in front of that house.
Okay. But if there was a neighbor that moved into the subdivision that also had a special needs kid, and they needed to have a bus that was a swing by there too.
That would be perfect. And it is perfectly fine to have the kids picked up that they have there on a special needs bus. Yes, I am all for busing. That takes more traffic off of the highways that we have.
And that's what's happening here.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Okay, anybody else?
Say, it's Eric. I have a question. I have something to say about that. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to have you go ahead and come back up and speak again if you would.
Yes, Mr. Lewis, the school bus that you see, my son is a disabled. He got diagnosis with something called HO something, and the bus comes there to pick up my son. His name is Isaiah Gaturuturu. He goes to Discovery Elementary. So with that, I feel I'm very sorry if he offended you somehow, but that's not how we give birth to kids, but we don't choose how they come, and that's our kid. So that really hurts our feelings. And But again, we really apologize for that concern. But that bus does not pick up anybody for a daycare. You can go and ask Discovery Elementary. That's where our son goes to school.
Kandi imodoka izana abana injira muri garage ntabwo.
So with anybody that gets picked, the bus that comes to our house for our son, it's not for anybody else. Discovery Elementary knows, and so they can. It's a way of training for him to get in the bus and feel like he's going to school. Because we try. I don't know what I can add, and so I really apologize for that. That does not create any traffic, and then that bus goes down there. But if that stop was added, it's for our own kid, for our son. Thank you. But he mentioned that the letter was sent to everybody. Before I sent the letter about the meeting, I did send it, and then I gave them more than 10 days for at least 10 days for that letter before I sent it. When I sent the letter, I gave them 10 more days, and then I sent in on the letters. I left in there. If anybody won't be able to attend, I'll be hosting a Zoom meeting. I put my email there. If anybody wanna join via Zoom, email me or call me. I will give you the link. Nobody showed up. That's all I can say.
Okay. If that's all they have to add, are there any other questions for the applicant or staff? No? Okay, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And at this time, I'd like to get a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for item number H 2022-0002. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Lorcher, go ahead.
I have a question for staff. So if they still only had 6 children, and because she had a baby, now there's 7, if she had 6 children, would they even need a conditional use permit? Are they allowed to run a family daycare without any other additional licensing in the city of Meridian?
Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, they would be able to do it under an accessory use permit, which is administrative and would not go to a public hearing. It was really them having a baby that triggered this.
Right. So do they already have the?
Correct. They already had an accessory use permit to run the business. It was having the baby that made them see you.
They already have the accessory use permit.
That is correct, for 6 children.
And I didn't hear how they have the baby and they have their son. Of the 2 children, they're just 2 for them? Are you still?
I didn't catch how many were theirs. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, if I could just expand upon the rules a little bit more and so clear up the confusion tonight. So the way the code's written is you can watch up to 6 children or more, or 6 or fewer in your home, and that includes your own. So for example, if you had 4 of your own kids and you applied for an AUP, the city could only allow you to watch 2 more for a total of 6. In this particular case, they have 2 children. They're probably watching, they probably had more than that. They probably had 5, and they added this second child and it put them to 7. So I want to make it clear on the record too, that a daycare group is not a daycare center. It's not a commercial business. That's not what we're here discussing tonight. What we're discussing is allowing him to use his home for a community service for residents that live in the area, and his occupancy of his home remains a residence. And that's how the building code treats it as well. So all we're doing this evening is, your purview this evening is, how many children are you willing to allow him to watch out of his home? That's really what the purpose of the conditional use is tonight. We're not a party to those CC&Rs. We can't enforce CC&Rs. That's something that's going to have to be taken up out of consideration from this body here. Right now before you is whether or not you want to allow this gentleman to expand his in-home daycare from 6 to 7, or allow him to go to 12. Again, that's within your purview. You can, in this process, you can allow him to watch up to 12 based on the public testimony. That's your purview this evening, is whether or not 12, 8, 9, 10, 11, or between 7 and 12 is appropriate for him to use his home.
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
question for staff. If the application is denied and the family has had a child, what would be what's the enforcement mechanism if they're in violation of their current zoning, I guess?
Members of the commission, it would be a zoning complaint, zoning enforcement. How do we enforce that? It's whack-a-mole. We would go out and they would have a code compliance officer investigate to see if there were more than 6 children there. If this were denied, then they would have to tell one of the families of the children that they were watching that they could only have 6.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Lorch, go ahead.
for staff, did the family say that they were really only looking for 7, or did they want to increase it to 12?
I would leave that to Eric. My understanding is this whole thing is being triggered because they had another kid.
Correct. So do they want to expand their business to 12, or they just want to accommodate the 7 because they had the baby?
I would have to defer that to Eric if you wanted to limit this to the number that they're now representing.
Is he still on the
Yeah,
line?
Chairman, I believe he testified he would like to go up to 12. I remember hearing that in his public testimony.
I agree.
Because he said if they choose to have another child, he doesn't want to go through this again. Gotcha.
Anyone else want to chime in?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Wheeler, go ahead.
I think it's actually very considerate that they're even coming before the body personally. So there's a lot of people that just watch an extra 2 kids here and there, kind of push up to this, kind of do like a quasi home daycare thing and don't even get licensed through the state for these things. My wife ran a home daycare thing and for several years, and it's nice to see people being this genuine in this process here. And to realize that they're even coming forward saying, hey, we have another kid. And that's the only reason why they're coming forward at this juncture. That just shows, to me, good ethics and wanting to be a good citizen. I'm hesitant, and this isn't to say anything bad or rude, but I don't want to get involved with family planning decisions based upon permitting for businesses. So with all that being said, after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to recommend approval for the city council of file number H 2022-002 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of March 17th, 2022 with no modifications.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing, or sorry, it's been moved and seconded to approve item number H 2022-0002 with no modifications. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Oh,
I have,
Maybe before
hold
we
on a
close,
minute.
can I ask
Kurt,
staff?
go ahead.
Just want to ask staff a quick question. Does this require a recommendation to the council, or is this an action item for the commission?
This is approval.
This is approval, conditional use.
So the maker of the motion is okay with that? I think what we read was, maybe I misheard. I thought we said recommendation, but are we okay with approval?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. I think that's correct. So this is for approval.
Yeah.
Correct. You're right. It does say recommendation here instead of approval. Do I need to re-speak this? then
As
for the
long as
record?
as long as the maker of the motion and the second is okay with that clarification, we're fine. But I just wanted to make sure it's approval, not recommendation.
Okay, I move for approval on that. Recommend approval, excuse me. Then I move that we approve
And the second-
file number.
the second-
Second stands? Okay.
Mr. Chair, clarification.
Go ahead, Bill.
Part of the daycare requirements for group, you have to state the number of children you want them to watch. So I would encourage you to
Rewind.
include that as part of the motion as well. Thank you.
Okay, let me rewind and rerun this again. Okay, after considering all staff applicant and public testimony, I move to approve file number H 2022-0002 as presented in the staff report for the hearing date of March 17th, 2022 for a daycare license up to 12 children.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve item number H 2022-0002 with the aforementioned modifications. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Yearsley, go ahead.
I move we adjourn.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved. It's been motioned and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all.